Welcome to FCPS All-Stars. Our guest for today is Mark Trice, science teacher at Frederick High School. So glad to have you today.
Hi Tiana, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Here at FCPS, a lot of teachers bring with them job experience that they actually are able to bring into the classroom to their students. Tell us a little bit about your experience.
As soon as I was student teaching, about 2 or 3 days later, I had an interview. I actually interviewed right out of student teaching.
Really?
And yeah, it was quite a quick process. I grew up in southwestern Pennsylvania, and I interviewed 2 days after student teaching. 2 days later, they offered me the job, and in 2 weeks, I moved 4.5 hours to Harford County with my wife and I, and that was it. So it was quite a trip, quite a change. It happened right after Christmas, so we were going down and we were renting apartments and trying to do everything 4.5 hours away. So that was my first experience. I started teaching right out of the gate. But within the 10 years I've been with Frederick High and Frederick County Public Schools, I've had a lot of summer experiences. I've worked in biodefense. I've worked at Fort Detrick in terms of immunology. I've tried to really get a diversified summer portfolio, try to do everything I possibly can that would be different and new that I could bring back to my students.
Now, I'm sure you can't divulge any secrets, but please share with us what exactly is biodefense?
Biodefense is a way to ward off or prevent or deal with any kind of biological weapon used as a weapon, as something that would harm people. So in my research and in a lot of research that was going on, there were methods and ways to find out how to protect everybody, how to study those bioweapons, how to study and use biology to find answers to the problems that face us.
And so biodefense is like biology, meaning something living, and then defense.
Right, so using actual biological agents, bacteria, viruses, anything like that, studying those and then understanding how they play a role.
Have you ever considered leaving the teaching profession to pursue what we back in the day used to call a good government job?
I mean, there's always considerations, but every time I've gone to do a summer internship in the lab or at an office or anything like that, I always come back to the fact that it's not teaching. I love to interact with my students. I love to watch them grow over an entire year. And everything I've tried, and I've tried a lot of different things, is just not teaching. And that's what I love.
Well, we're glad to have you because we need people like you to make people who can study the biodefense. What sorts of things do you do in your classroom with your students?
We study a lot of different things in our biology, our AP biology class. Everything from ecology and evolution to genetics to cells to everything. I definitely think one of my kids' favorite topics is molecular genetics and biotechnology because it's the most relevant to what they see every single day. It's going to be what impacts them and affects their life in their lifetime.
Tell me about something that you've shared with your students that they can see a direct correlation between science in the classroom and science in the world.
I think one of my favorite examples, we've all heard of GMOs, genetically modified organisms, especially a lot of the food that we eat. And one of the things that I introduced to them in this chapter, in this unit, is the idea of genetically modifying foods to help the fruits and vegetables grow. And one of the big examples is tomatoes. Tomatoes are very sensitive to frost. So they've actually taken a gene out of a flounder that is used to living in very cold water. It's called the antifreeze gene, and they've genetically engineered it into a tomato so that they're not susceptible to frost. So it's a way of impacting and bettering our world by using the biology and modifying things, but not changing it.
What do you think the future holds with regard to biotechnology and biodefense?
Biotechnology is going to play a big role. It already is playing a big role in our life, but it's going to play a bigger role even in my students' life. I let them know that we tend to go to the doctor now when we're sick and we get a write-up, we look at a patient history. That's what the doctors are using for their diagnostics.
Right.
And we're in the very near future approaching what we call $1,000 genome, which means for $1,000 you could have your entire genome sequenced. And doctors, instead of pulling up patient files, will be pulling up your genome. And for diseases such as like breast cancer and heart disease, things that are really impacting the people in our world, they could look at your genome and actually personalize the medicine, design the medicine that would work for you, and maybe not for someone else, but actually personalize the medicine and the treatments to you and your genetic makeup.
I think I've seen commercials about that. Aren't they doing some of that already?
One of the most famous examples in the recent was Angelina Jolie and the breast cancer. The BRCA1, BRCA2 mutation is something they can look for in your genes, and if you have that mutation, that change in your DNA, it's likely that you could develop breast cancer. So by studying that, they've actually personalized and designed a medicine that would target that mutation, alter and change the genetic makeup, and actually get rid of the breast cancer. It would treat the breast cancer. They've designed other medicines for heart disease and other types of ailments. So we're using science to really fix the problems of the world. So it's a really exciting time.
That's fascinating. In terms of being a science teacher, what are you most proud of?
I'm most proud of watching my students grow, of course, but professionally, well, in my 10 years of being here in Frederick County, I think one of the most proud moments I have is the development of my iGEM team. iGEM stands for International Genetically Engineered Machines.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah, it is, right? And truthfully what it is it's like Lego blocks. You can put a bunch of blocks together and you can build a structure. iGEM is about looking at different little pieces, sequences, things that turn genes on, things that turn genes off, putting these together and creating something, an answer to a problem. A couple years ago, when we started iGEM, we were working on a project where we were trying to derive electricity from bacteria in the soil.
Electricity from bacteria.
Yeah,
I think I've heard everything now. We've got it from wind, we've got it from water.
Yeah,
now
and
we can get it from
and
bacteria.
it actually worked. We made a very small, they called it a mudwatt cell, but basically it lit up a diode. It was able to the bacteria were able to accrue enough electrons and electricity and turned on the light bulb. So we were looking at that as what is the implications, what can we do with that? This year, with a new team, they've graduated obviously, with a new team we decided to tackle a different project, and that is how to make spider web proteins glow in the dark, and then what applications does that have for the future? We know it's strong, we know it has a very high tensile strength, so what can we do with it? So some really interesting projects coming down the line.
But we don't have any Spider-Man kids out there yet, do we?
Okay. No, that's good.
Are there many schools that participate in the iGEMS program?
A few years ago when we created iGEM, it was at Frederick High. We started it. I worked with another scientist from Fort Detrick, and we designed it. And at that point, Frederick High School was the only school in the county and in the state of Maryland to actually have this team. So we worked 2 very hard years developing our project, taking it to the county science fair. And one of the culminating moments was we went to MIT in a worldwide competition against 52 other teams, and we actually took home one of the very few awards for our work. So that's proudly displayed in our display case. So that was a few years ago, and with the success of that, it really spawned trying to help others. You know, this was great for my school, but I wanted to bring it out to other schools in the county. I wanted to be able to offer that.
Yeah.
So with that success, we developed a nonprofit organization that I'm on the board with, and that is designed to come up with what steps do we need to take to make this possible? What funding can we get? And we've actually supported in the last 2 years 2 more teams in Frederick County to do this. Tuscarora and Middletown have developed their teams. Last year they presented with us at a conference in Baltimore to fellow scientists, and this year they took place in a virtual conference online. Went the whole way from Canada to the United States. They got a chance to present the research as well. So really trying to bring some cutting edge experiences for our students in Frederick County.
Now, I've heard of students crashing parties. I understand your students crashed something else.
Yeah, so this was the first run of the virtual conference. We didn't really know what to expect. I mean, the site was up and running, everything was great. I thought, you know, what better place to talk with my students, have a relaxed atmosphere, but still work than a coffee shop. So we all met at a coffee shop, had a drink, got something to eat. It was great. And about 5-10 minutes into the conference, we crashed the Wi-Fi at the coffee shop. Yes, so we had to quickly figure out, okay, there's no getting this back up, so we relocated our entire team to a McDonald's down the road. Yeah, that was definitely a memory that is pretty important, especially.
So with this international conference regarding science, what did your students gain from that experience, besides crashing the coffee shop?
They learned from that. That was a good moment for them. My students learned a lot. I mean, science was important, but this venture wasn't just to teach them science. It broadened their horizons, it let them see what real science in the real world looked like. But it also helped them to understand communication techniques and really allowed them to kind of embrace what they learned and then communicate that. And it was interesting. One of the things, I had no expectations. I didn't know what to expect from this. And as I watched them, they were very defensive when people were making comments on their research. And that, I mean, that's normal and natural for a high school student, but I didn't expect that. I figured, because I had been through the research process a lot, that you just kind of take the constructive criticism, work with it. They were very defensive. And I said, guys, it's don't just let it go. Like, it's not a big deal. Listen to what they're saying, because they're trying to make this better for you. So throughout the next 2 hours, the conference was about 2 hours long, they really got into this, and they thought, oh, they're really trying to help us. So it was this really big change, and it was awesome to see it. So my students learned a lot about communication, but even constructive feedback. And that all is going to culminate. They took all that constructive feedback, and they're redesigning, they're rewriting, they're fixing, revising all of their work, so that through the summer we're working with a writer, a professional scientist, and come the beginning of the fall, we will actually publish that research in a scientific journal.
So some of our FCPS students are going to be published
Yes.
while they are still in high school.
Yes, and they will go
That
to
is-
college saying, I'm a published author.
That is phenomenal. It sounds like your group of students and yourself are really close-knit, kind of like a family. Why don't you tell me about your family?
So I have my lovely wife, Sonia. We've been together seemingly forever. And I laugh, but it's true. We've really grown up together. We went to the same church. We were in the same youth group. We were friends for a long, long time. I mean, we dated as early as 2000. So we've been together for 17 years. We've been married this year. We'll celebrate 10 years.
Oh.
So it's been a really, it's been an amazing journey. She's my best friend, and I do love going on this journey with her. So it's been great. I have a dog and 2 cats, both cats we rescued. One from the shelter and one from my backyard. So that was kind of an interesting moment. I wasn't expecting to have a cat. But so they keep us busy, and they keep us, the hair is always on my clothes, so it's okay.
Good thing for lint brushes and tape.
Amen, amen.
It's interesting that in addition to working with genetics professionally, that you and Sonia have also had to deal with it on a personal level. Would you mind sharing that?
Not at all. Yes, we are 1 in 8. And what I mean by that is there's 1 in 8 couples in this country that are battling infertility. And that was one of the things, you know, we got married young, we were 22 and 23. And at that age, you don't think anything's gonna go wrong. You just think, we're gonna get married, we're gonna have a house, we're gonna get cars, we're gonna have kids.
2.5 children.
Yes, and that's the vision. When we went to college, we seemed to follow that path. And we learned very, very quickly that life doesn't always turn out how you design it, how you want it to be. So we are that 1 in 8 couple who's battling infertility. We've tried for several years. We've gone through several different procedures. And honestly, I mean, it's been a blessing to find that out, because just recently we had a karyotype done. A karyotype is where they look at your chromosomes, they look and make sure everything is normal. And we actually found out that she has an abnormal chromosome number that's caused from a rare genetic disease. And it doesn't affect her. She's not affected, she's not sick. But in trying to conceive the child through all the processes, it never worked. The embryos would never completely align, so we would just have continual miscarriages.
Wow.
So in the 8 years that we've been battling this, I learned a lot, both professionally and personally, and we built up that support system. But we've learned a lot in that battle, and we're coming out a lot stronger. And it's coming to a happy end, because we have some great things happening, some great things that are going to give us the opportunity, hopefully within the next year, to really make this a dream.
Okay. Well, I'm so sorry that you and your wife are experiencing this. And it has to be devastating for anyone to lose a child. Where do people who are over the 1 in 8 go for support?
There's a lot of virtual places. There's a lot of, you can work. I know Resolve is one of the companies that you can, or there's meeting places, there's support groups. I know one of the places that we found the most support was on Facebook. There was a lot of Facebook groups out there of people who have the disease that she has, or even just infertility, trying to talk to other people, really reaching out, realizing that although we're in the minority, there's a lot of us, and we all need to support each other. And one of the biggest support systems that we've found was through the CADE Foundation. It's a local organization here in Maryland, and they offer a lot of support, but they also offer grant opportunities.
Okay.
This process is extremely expensive, and we are fortunate in Maryland that they do help with that cost, but it's a very expensive process, a very arduous process the whole way through. And this foundation actually helps to provide money for those opportunities. And out of the 100, over 100 teams, or 100 couples that applied for a grant this year across the United States, there were only 3 chosen. And we were one of those 3.
Wow.
So it's been an amazing ride, and like I said before, there's some hope, there's some light that we're seeing at the end of this tunnel. A few weeks ago, we actually ran a 5K. I should walk a 5K. Let's get real. We walked a 5K for the Cade Foundation and raised money so that they could help either provide grants or go towards research. But we've really kind of immersed ourselves into this world.
And what's the name of that 5K?
It was through the Cade Foundation.
Okay.
And it's Run Walk 5K. A Race for the Family, I believe, is what it's
Race for the
called.
Family.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's good for our viewers to know.
Right. And we've really tried to just get involved in as much as we can.
Now, I know that's a very personal part of your life, and we so appreciate you sharing that. What exactly is it about your journey that made you want to share this?
I definitely think that with these types of situations, the more information, the more informed a person is, the more information that's out there, the more help they feel. They don't feel so isolated that why is this us? Why is this happening to us? There's a lot of variations, and there's a whole spectrum in this disorder of how do you what's the help, what do you do? So
Right.
I wanted to speak about this because not many people, 1, talk about it, and 2, let anybody else know. I mean, it was a private matter for Sonia and I for a while. And I did open up to my department and our friends, but it's not something you just go broadcast everywhere because it seems to be a very personal struggle. But it really has helped me, 1, in sharing it to kind of take the burden off of us,
Right.
share that and have people really respond and support and make some really great friends along the way. But honestly, I think one of the biggest things that's come out of it is it's made me more understanding of my students. And that seems like a strange correlation. Our students don't battle infertility, but I understood that, like we said before, that life does not come out to be perfect. And when I have my students who think everything's going to be planned and then something happens, it could be death of a loved one, it could be a disease, it could be anything, and they don't know how to handle that, it's really helped me to be more compassionate and understand and let them know that there is someone who has gone through some pretty bad stuff. And I'm here, and I'm still living, I'm still surviving, I'm still standing, that there's answers out there. So, aside from learning all the science, and it's been great to bring all this knowledge back to my classroom, and ask my students and push them in terms of ethical considerations and what would you do because it's going to be part of your lifetime. It's really helped me on the other side personally to just understand people more, understand that some people just don't understand, and that's okay. So yeah, it's really been a wholehearted, holistic effort.
And I'm sure that it lets other people know that they're not alone, because
Right.
I'm sure you come across other 1 in 8s
Yeah.
who have the same experience. So it's good to let them know.
And we've
that
actually
they're
had some close friends who have battled, who told you'll never have children, and then all of a sudden have children. So we share our story where it needs to be shared.
Well, Mark, thank you so much for sharing your story with us, and I wish you and Sonia the best in your journey. And thank you for joining us as well. Stay tuned for our next episode of FCPS All Stars, and in the meantime, shine on.